Blog Talk Radio.
Ay, 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 la chupacabra, ¿por qué?
Are you tired of losing your herd of goats to the chupacabra? Are you worried about how you're going to eat because your goats were viciously ravaged? Call S&L Chupacabra Insurance today. S&L provides fast, speedy claims in the event of your goat farm being destroyed. Low rates, fast service, and professional attitude is what makes S&L your choice for Chupacabra Insurance. Call 855-CHUPA-NO today. 855-CHUPA-NO for a free rate quote. S&L Chupacabra Insurance, just in case the Chupacabra comes.
Ay, 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 la chupacabra.
Welcome to A Billion Realities. Here's your host, Jessica Gerlach.
Hi, everyone. Today on the second episode of A Billion Realities, we are talking to Dennis, who will be sharing a very deep and personal story about his struggles with childhood abuse, addiction within his family, and suicide awareness. Hi, Dennis. Are you there?
Yes, I am, Jessica. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing well with the mandatory shutdowns that are going into place at 8 o'clock tonight here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Is it the first night that they're doing that there?
Yes, mandatory it is. They had asked voluntarily, but not many were cooperating, so they put it into effect at 8 o'clock tonight.
Ah, same thing here in Serbia for a couple days now. So, yeah, it's happening on a global level. So how long have you been in that area? Is that the area that you're from?
Yes, I've been here my whole life. I grew up just right outside the city of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. And yeah, just staying put. I would love to move and get away from the gray, gloomy skies and the unpredictable weather from day to day. Tomorrow here it will be 72, and it will drop overnight to a low of 25, and then only be 42 for a high the next day.
Oh, wow. So it's very up and down.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
I'm from New York originally, so the weather is very similar.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, it happens here too. We have the same four seasons, the same at the same time over here where
really?
I'm at in Serbia. Yeah.
All right.
Summers are a lot hotter, but the winters are milder, but the same. So I was really happy to hear that you wanted to be on the show. I didn't realize how heavy your story actually is and the things that you've been through. So what was your childhood like growing up? You said there was some abuse in your childhood.
Yeah, there was quite a bit of abuse. Not against myself or my siblings. I do have two brothers and I have a sister, but so my sister's younger than me and my brothers are obviously older. And the abuse mostly, well, I would say not mostly, solely, was my father and abusing my mother, both physically and verbally. He drank a lot, and he wasn't a, I guess they're called. He would come home drunk and for no reason start picking fights with my mother. And the memory that sticks in my mind the most, I would have to say, would definitely be I was 4 going on 5, and I still to this day remember clearly them two fighting, and my father dragging my mother through the house, and my mother screaming for me to call 911, and my father saying, no, don't. So, and it was, for a good 15 minutes, and I was just stuck there in the middle. So that's the most memorable incident. But it was
Wow.
constant. It was very constant, and my mother she worked as a waitress at the time, and other than that, she, was just the housewife. She didn't go out doing anything. They got married young, and they had us young. I believe my mother had all four of us before she had turned 21.
Wow, that's really young. 4 of you before 21.
Yeah. And from there, once they divorced, my father ended up moving just where we live. It's kind of like city blocks. They're not quite as long, but same concept. And my father, while we were growing up, from that point on, he lived 3 blocks over and 3 blocks down. So it was definitely, under a 10-minute walk. I would say closer to 5, but we never heard from him. We from that point on, he didn't work. We didn't get birthday cards, Christmas cards, gifts of any kind. But
Wow.
and from there, my mother ended up in another relationship, and this guy was just the same. Just a heavy drinker and a mad drunk. And,
Wow.
pretty much doing the same things as I was growing up, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I recall, go ahead.
How old were you when they finally divorced, your dad and her?
When they finally divorced, I was 7.
Oh, okay. So, that's really
so-
common to get involved with another abusive relationship after being in one, because you get familiarized with such a toxic dynamic. And if you don't heal from that and realize your self-worth or, how to love yourself, you'll definitely attract that again and accept it again. So that's not so shocking to me, but it's just super unfortunate that you had to witness it all over again. So how long did that relationship last?
So the piece that you just shared was very helpful to me already, and the call had just begun. So the next relationship was, would say, about a 7-year relationship, and she wasn't married to this man, but the relationship lasted about 7 years. So now by then, granted, I'm 14, so my oldest brother is 18, and this man worked out of town during the week and would come home just on the weekends. And when he came home, he would just be in the garage working on his car, restoring old cars and getting plastered, and coming into the house and just starting the fights. From that one, I recall coming home from a bowling alley. I would say I was 10 now, and a pitch dark country road on the way home, and he stops the car in the middle of the road, because they're fighting so bad the entire way home. And I remember getting out and just running down the center of the street, like just trying to escape. I don't know where I was going to run to, but I needed out of that vehicle.
Wow, that's intense and so traumatic for a child. So how many siblings did you say you had?
So I have 3. I have a sister who's 1 year younger than me, and I have 2 brothers that are 2 and 3 years older than me.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they saw all of this too.
They did, and that's I'm glad that you said that, because that brings up an important point in my mind, that my oldest brother, he lived what he learned. He had a girlfriend throughout high school, and it was a constant. I mean, they were always physically fighting, like daily, like closed fists,
Wow.
punching each other, but like staying together for years.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't understand that.
Yeah. How long did they stay together for?
Oh my goodness, I want to say well over 5 years.
Okay.
Well,
No kids?
yeah, well over 5 years. No kids, thank goodness. A lot of craziness, in their relationship. Needless to say. But yeah, I found it kind of, I guess maybe I just didn't understand it, how he lived, what he learned, and my other brother and I are completely opposite. Now my oldest brother isn't still that way. He has a personality of just, being a prick, but he's not still that way as far as physically, abusive with his wife. He doesn't speak to her very nicely, but yeah, my other brother and myself are completely opposite. I guess we kind of, said I'm not going to be that kind of a man.
Wow. It's funny how abuse can affect different people differently.
Yeah.
It is really common for, kids who grow up in an abusive environment to repeat it. And then you have the flip side, like you and your brother, who wanted to be the extreme opposite. So it affects everybody differently, but it's really unfortunate that anybody has to grow up in that environment, for sure. It's okay. So your mother, where is she at with?
So my mother did a phenomenal job raising the 4 of us. After that, completely on her own. She was done. She just didn't. She did not want to even date another man for any reason at all. She worked as a waitress and also cleaning houses for herself, not under a company. To provide the 4 of us not only with food and shelter, but with name brand shoes, so we weren't picked on in school, and the things that we wanted. She was able to pretty much spoil us on her own, and I give my mother the most respect that I could give to anybody that I know. The job that she did after what she has been through is just amazing.
That's incredible. I'm happy to hear that. And did she ever get in another relationship after that?
Yes. So Mom is married now, and she's been married for like 18 years or so, to a man that growing up the three boys, us three boys, this man has 4 sons, and we are all the same ages, and we went to school together, and we were friends all throughout high school, and so they only lived just like literally right around the corner. His wife had passed away due to some surgery that she had, and a few years after that, they ended up getting together, and he's a good guy.
Wow.
He doesn't
I'm
drink.
happy to hear.
Not that I'm against people that drink, but he's not a drinker, and there's no issue there to be concerned about.
I'm happy to hear that she found somebody who's healthy and good to her and good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where does the addiction come in?
Okay. So my oldest brother had gotten into a very, very horrific dirt bike accident at his graduation party that was like in this field in the middle of the woods, and they were all riding dirt bikes, and around a blind bend, a friend of his, a very good friend of his, and he was on another dirt bike. They were going towards each other, not it was here on the bend. When they hit each other, their left sides hit, and he ended up being life-lighted, and he had his femur bone was sticking out of his skin. The bone in his arm towards his wrist was broken out of the skin. Like, he ended up with pins and all kinds of plates and everything. So he went through that, and for a lot of years, an extreme amount of pain. And that's really where it started, after that incident, that accident. But so then OxyContin came around, and Big Pharma was doing their thing, and so it began. My brother ended up going to college and graduating with a master's degree in accounting, and his wife graduated with a master's in something business related. So he was the head accountant for a very big grocery store chain, and she was working where she was, and the OxyContin addiction for those two was $4,000 a week.
Oh, wow.
Doing OxyContin. So, and then whenever heroin came around this area, it was so much cheaper, and the OxyContin supply was kind of starting to dwindle, and the heroin was prevalent, and it led to heroin, using crack cocaine, staying up for days. I lived with my wife at the time. We lived, a little far away to get away from the city stuff, and it was just, coming into Mom's. I would see him, and he went from about 200 pounds to, I think it was 124, from 2-something to 124 pounds, in and out of jail. It was, and I was, everyone else in the family had kind of turned their back on him. Like, Mom didn't until he, almost completely drained her financially, stole her jewelry, stole things like my grandparents. We're a very close family, like Sunday dinners, every Sunday. So we're all, we're all very close. And, for that, while he was doing OxyContins and everything, he wasn't stealing. He was supporting his own habit financially, but when he was doing the heroin and the crack and everything, he was stealing off of everybody and anybody.
Yeah, that's what they do. That's a common scenario because they'll do whatever they can to get what they need. So that's unfortunate.
And
It does
not
ruin
even
families.
like, not even like no consideration at all. Like, I'm taking my mother's jewelry right now. Like, so she bailed him out a couple times, and she paid his fines, and I recall being at work, and I helped get him out the first time that he went to jail, and then the second time, I remember him calling me clear as day, and he's begging me to get him out, and only like a week had gone by, and I know he just wants to get high. He wants to get out and get high. That's what he did, the first two times or the first time, whatever. And I told him no. I said, listen, you're not. I'm not helping you because I can see you in one of three places, and that would be jail, which is where you are, or I can see you in a rehab, which you're not ready to go to, or I can see you in a casket. And I was like, I'm not gonna do that. So I left him there, for a good year almost, and then I was able to help him get out and get into a 3/4 house, and then with work release and blah blah blah. So he has been clean now 10 years, and his wife has been clean 8. So it turned around. It took a long time, but it turned around.
So how many years was he in active addiction?
He was in active addiction for almost 20 years. Yeah, because I want to say 18. Was it really that long? Wow. Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was almost 18 years. Because I recall, this is the flashback. I recall him being at my mother's when I was going through a major state of depression. And him and us two hugging and me saying, like, I feel like I just lost 2 years of my life. I don't know what's going on. And he began crying, and he said, I lost almost 18 of mine in addiction. Missing the kids grow up, his nieces and nephews, and, just regrets.
Yeah, that's a long time, but it's not uncommon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere, big issue.
Yep. So what was the final turning point for him that he was like, I don't want to live like this anymore?
I think it was just it took me, because I was his last person to hold on to that didn't give up on him. And it took me leaving him in prison long enough, to completely have it out of his system and give him time with nothing to do but reflect about what's been going on all this time, and how much damage he had caused, not only to himself, but like I said, to my mom, to his other siblings, and I just then, I think it was that length of time that I left him in there. And, he could have came out and started doing, that all over again. But he chose not to. And, now he not only goes to NA meetings, but he has his own home groups where he is the leader of, very active in that community.
That's amazing. I
Love it.
was just talking to my last guest, Dave King. He has 2 nonprofits dedicated to addiction and suicide, abuse, and basically they have the homes where they take individuals, probably more so kids, in who are struggling with these things. And yeah, I was asking him the same thing, like how many ex-addicts, how many addicts who aren't using anymore turn that pain into their purpose. And he said, yeah, it's very, very common. So I think that helps an addict to stay on the right path, right? To be helpful, giving back to others who went through what they went through. And it also serves as a reminder of, the dark underworld of addiction. So it's like you see it all over again, and you're like, I definitely don't want to go back there.
Yeah, and it's it can take a very long time. Some people are able to just say I'm done with this, and but most aren't. He has a very good friend who is now a licensed psychologist who spent 30 years hooked on crack cocaine. And now he's in his 50s, but he's a psychologist, and he runs all kinds of community events and has drop-in centers. And my brother has what are they called? He has houses where people go to while they're active in drug court. He has rentals for them to stay in sober living houses.
Wow.
My brother has multiple of those now. So, yeah, I definitely agree, with what you said as far as helping others who are going through what you have gone through.
Right.
Being very, very helpful.
Yeah,
And,
it's important.
that very.
It's important to have purpose, and that's what, like I said, Dave and I were just talking about as well. He's heavily immersed in that, and it's so important to feel like what your purpose is in this world, what your mission is. A lot of people will say, about addicts, like, oh, well, they're a mom or a dad, so shouldn't that be enough? And as much as we live for our kids, and they love their kids too, and you get into the everyday life and the stresses of life and being a parent, and sometimes even that isn't enough to keep somebody straight. Often it's not, and it really comes down to having like another purpose in the world and giving back in that way. So I think it's just so important to have a purpose. And it sounds like your brother, he turned his 18-year addiction into his purpose and giving back, right? So
Right.
yeah,
And
so
I think when active in addiction, I think that a part of your brain gets affected in that way where it's almost like the common sense part where like I have kids, I shouldn't be doing this, or I'm gonna lose everything if I continue to do this. That those things are gone.
yeah.
I really don't think that thinking is working at that time.
No,
And
it doesn't.
Absolutely not. And I like helping others. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm very, very involved in adolescent suicide prevention. I'm working in the mental health field now for over 3 years with adolescents. And thankfully, I get to keep working now that they're closing everything down. Things have changed. We got to do a lot of telecare over the phone, less face-to-face. But, and, my job my work is community-based. So it's like I'm face-to-face. That's what I want. I want to be active with these young ones, and now it's like a little struggle. Like, there's this social distancing thing where you got to stay 6 feet away.
Right.
You're supposed to, and that, is putting a little damper on, my part, my role. But, as I said, that I got into what I'm doing because of what I went through. And I believe that when somebody does that, goes through something and then, you know, it is trying to help others get through something similar. That sense of purpose, you know, is right there. It's like I love what I do. It's like I love waking up to do my work. Not one day in over 3 years have I said to myself, I don't want to go to work or come home in a bad mood or, you know, not once. So I think, you know, and it's got to be because of some of the things that I've gone through.
Yeah, and if you're okay with it, you can share your story about that and how it's translated to what you're doing now.
And building, you know,
That's up to
that resiliency, you know,
Mm-hmm.
learning to be resilient.
Absolutely.
And
So
working through some pretty difficult things. So if you want me to continue, I will just jump back to my father. So he disappeared. You know, basically, just, you know, didn't hear from him a very long time. Fast forward,
your son. Your son?
We're back to my father for a minute.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. You cut out a little bit, so I didn't hear.
I got you. Yeah. So I moved, and I shouldn't have done that. So
that's okay.
Back to my father for a little bit. He disappeared. Well, you know, he was very close physically, but not there for us. So early 20s now. I'm 20 years old, and I have my first son, the first grandchild in the family, and about a year. It took about a year, maybe. No, I would say 6 months. My father, you know, all of a sudden there he is. Like, can I see my grandson? We're holding grudges. Okay, so you know he's coming around, and then my sister has a kid, and then my brother has twins, and my sister has another one, and so now Grandpap's in the picture. Dad's back around for you know a very long time now, for years. And he was around. He was staying with my sister for a little bit. He had gotten separated from the woman he was married to, and then he moved in with another woman, and blah, blah, blah. So I'm at home in the country kind of setting, having fires in the yard. Dad's around, having a few beers, you know, changed from the angry person that he was. And a summer night, he had called, and it was almost 9:30, and he asked he asked what I was doing, and just, you know, nothing, and said, well, I can grab some beer if you want to start a fire. You know, we can just BS by the fire. And I said, all right. So he was at my aunt's house, his sister's, at that time, and we hung up, and an hour or so went by, and he didn't show up. I thought nothing of it. You know, it's like, no big deal, whatever. He got sidetracked, whatever happened. Go to work the next morning, and 7:45, my supervisor comes and to the job site and says, you come on back to the office with us. And me thinking I'm in trouble, I was like, okay. And when I got in the truck, he said, you need to call your sister. Call my sister. And the first thing that she had told me was that my father had shot himself the night before.
Oh, my God.
Probably within, you know, a half an hour after I hung up the phone with him.
Wow.
My aunt, his sister, her husband had come home, and my dad's car was there, and he didn't see my dad anywhere, and he noticed that his gun was gone, and he called the state police, and they found my dad sitting in a chair. behind the house with a gun beside him.
Wow, that's crazy.
So that was pretty shocking.
Did he leave a note or
To say
anything?
the least. No, and that's the hardest part, Jessica. That's where, the whys, that will never be answered.
I mean,
because
yeah.
clueless, there were no signs. There was no different tone in his voice when we were on the phone. There was no different affect in the way, that he had been acting. So it just, it was very shocking. And my oldest brother, of course, was where at the time in jail. So I had to call and tell them why I needed to talk to him, and they got him on the phone, and I had to explain to him what had just happened. And, no, you can't come out for the funeral. You're in jail.
Oh, wow.
And that's where you got to stay. And that was 2011. Yeah, 2011. And yeah, that's just, I wish I knew why. I wish I knew why. You just started coming back around years ago, but you still were, and everything was seemingly, okay. Did I ever forgive you? Did any of us really ever forgive you for bailing on us? No, but that's that water's
But you still
long
had
gone.
a relation, and you still had a relationship after.
Absolutely, and never brought it up. None of us. We never brought it up. We just went about our lives. Like I said, my mother raised us perfectly fine.
Right. And you had support from her, so you just kind of left that alone, it sounds like, with him, and then he came back around and you accepted him.
Yeah, and that was it. So, reasons I couldn't come up with one, and that's another way that, my brother and I that, went opposite. We went opposite. I had my first son, Austin, at the age of 20, and, in my mind, I was not going to be like my father, no matter what. I was not going to be that kind of dad in any way, So
right.
from day one, that Austin, my best friend, all day, every day, it's just inseparable. For 20 years almost. Just
wow.
became my best friend and my focus, and my brother was the same way when he had his twins.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. What did you say?
So my brother was the same with his twins after he had kids, just not being the father that our father was. Let's just do our best and be the dad, to our children that we wanted growing up.
Yeah, right.
That's all, and it seemed pretty simple to do. It didn't seem very difficult. I may have got state messed up. I'm not sure, but
that's okay. We don't care about that.
And fast forwarding throughout my life with Austin, like I said, it was everything, camping, fishing, all the father and son. He graduated school in January ahead of the class that graduated in June. Very bright, very, very smart, very outgoing, very friendly, lots of friends. And he got out of school and was working for me. At the time, I was a self-employed contractor working on homes. So he was working with me, learning things. And friends were always over. No big deal. We love the kids. I'd rather have you guys here than, wherever. Not that they only stayed there, but in September 2010. I think it was 15. At 1:48 in the morning, I get a phone call, and it's my mom, and she says Austin was in an accident, and I was like just waking up, and now I don't know if I should back up, but 9 months before this, I went into a very deep depression, and this is years after my father passed away, and like nothing triggered anything with this depression. It was just completely calm, and it lasted for 2 years. But so I'm in this state of depression, and I had to I was barely just working enough to get by, just Austin and I. So Austin was at work and was getting off late, and my mom calls and she says Austin was in an accident. Do you want me to pick you up, or you want to come get me? What? He's just on his way home from work. I go to my mom's. I beat the helicopter to the hospital, and we're sitting there, and his mother and I, we're no longer together, but close enough friends and respectable enough, that there were no issues that would involve Austin the entire time we were together. No courts, no custody. I mean, she knew that we were the best of friends, and she wouldn't do that, to me or to him, really.
Right.
So in the hospital, for forever. And just long story short, they tried to save him for 20 hours, and they just said, we can continue, and we're 100% sure that if he does make it out of this, which it really doesn't seem like it, honestly, he will be in a vegetable state from the head trauma. And his mother and I had to agree to just let them stop trying. They tried for 20 hours, and there's really no progress.
Wow.
So that became my living nightmare.
That's tragic. And he was 20 at that time?
Yeah, he was 20. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
So we were planning his 21st birthday. Like, we're gonna take you and your friends to a ski resort, and pay for everybody to snowboard, because he and I would go snowboarding, and we'd take his friends. And so we were planning out this, whole big, you're 21. Let's go to Seven Springs, and take your friends, pay for them to get in, planning these. And a bunch of other things planning that just, got thrown away.
So how did you cope with this? How did you cope?
Now, after my father shot himself at that time, I was having teeth work done, and they were giving me Vicodin, and I had 3 teeth pulled, and they gave me 30 Vicodin extra strength with 2 refills. So they gave me 90 Vicodin. Like, now,
wow.
Now I'm eating pills like they're Tic Tacs. Like, this is how I'm going to numb myself.
Mm-hmm.
So after 2 years of that, I decided I'm stopping. So I went to the emergency room and said, how do I stop doing this? They gave me blood pressure medication and said take 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1, and you'll be good. I did that. I've been good ever since. But when Austin passed, now it's time for his funeral, and all of my friends, what are they doing? They're like handing me pain pills, like just expecting, thinking this like this is what he wants. He's got to numb himself out and how he's going to do this. Now, I had already been majorly depressed, like to the point where I almost was done working for 9 months. And my brain, after, the funeral, not just a couple days after Austin passed, I snapped out of it. And I mean, when I say I was majorly depressed, I mean every second of every day from the time I woke up until the time I went to sleep, tried to sleep. I was a totally different person. I was non-talkative, not interacting with my kids very much, not even speaking to my wife very much, sitting in the same room. Totally opposite of what I am now. My depression had vanished, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I asked my psychiatrist, I said, should I not be, like, from the condition I was in, should I not be sitting in a corner in a fetal position, like, ready to check out?
Yeah.
And it said to me that from the trauma, my brain had, to protect me, shifted things around and moved the depression somewhere else in my mind, in my brain. And so I could grieve. And I was totally baffled, Jessica. I've never thought anything like that was possible. And he said to me, what are you going to do if it comes back? And I remember saying, I don't feel like it's going to. Like, I feel like it's gone. It's completely gone. And I'll be damned.
Unreal.
I will be damned. 3 months later, it put me right back where I was.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
It came back full force, not functioning, not working, nothing. So I got through that funeral, and I got through those 3 months, whatever, of grieving, and that grieving never stops. But, and then it came back. I was like, you have to be shitting me. Like, this isn't happening. And it did. So that was a year. For the next 12 months, I was, contemplating what bridge I could take, what road I could step out in front of the fastest big truck at 2 a.m. and just ending.
Wow.
Going to sleep every night, my prayer was, and I don't pray all the time. I'm not this. God, if I'm going to wake up tomorrow and go through what I went through today, please don't let me wake up. Every single night of my life. Every single night. Now I just lost my son, my best friend, and now I'm broken again, mentally. My brain is broken.
Oh, my God.
So no desire to keep going. Like, why, for what? Like, why keep going through this if I can put a stop to it?
So what ended up being your coping tool?
So fortunately I didn't take the drug route. I didn't take any of the pills that, my friends, who I'm sure they're very good friends, were really just trying to help me out in a way.
Of course.
They don't know what to do. Like, nobody knows what to do or what to say. Like,
right.
What do you say to somebody who just lost their child? Like, there aren't words, that are going to fix anything.
There's not.
So I through my depression, through everything, I still continue to meet with a therapist and with a psychiatrist. Not very often. I started, thinking in my mind, what's the point? Like, I've tried all these medications. 19 medications, antidepressants. with no relief for this. What's the point in me continuing to go talk to these people? So I started doing that, and it was for probably almost, I don't know, 5 months. I wasn't, doing anything. I was just kind of shut down. I was leaving the house in my work truck and like going and parking on a road somewhere and going to sleep on a beautiful summer day, like beautiful outside, 80 degrees, and like I'm sleeping in my truck because I'm mentally broken. This isn't by choice. Like I love life. I love being outdoors and breathing in the air and just doing anything physical outside. I love life. Like I was always the happiest. I'll bring you up if you're down. Like, but now I was broken. So my mom had actually taken me. So my wife was trying to get me to go back to work a couple times, and I did 3 times, and I got hired 3 times at 3 different jobs for $18 an hour to start, and I quit each job. So she had finally understood that, this isn't, I'm not lazy, and it never was. Like, something's wrong with me for real.
Right.
So she said, listen, don't even try to work again. I'll work more hours. She's a hairstylist. She said, just go, please go do something, get yourself help. My mom took me over to a mental health treatment facility, and she said, go in and just ask them. Like, I didn't even want help because nothing's going to work. So she said, go in and ask them, what do you do? What do you need to do? Like, intake something, a group. So I go in and I go up to the counter, like, kinda. I went where my mom couldn't see me, and now I'm, 40 freaking years old almost, and ditching and hiding from my mom. And I go back out to tell her that I talked to somebody, which I didn't, but she wasn't there. So I was like, son of a. So again, I talked to these people. And they, recommended that I start an intensive outpatient group program where I'll meet 5 days a week, 3 days a week, 6 hours a day in a group setting. So I did that, and that just taking up my time, and like my vehicle now broken down, and like when it rains it pours.
That's so true.
About 6 months of that and medication, I started to whistle, and my wife was like, "Did you just whistle?" Because I'm always in a good mood. Like when I'm happy, I play whistling. So she was like, that, like, there's something there. Like, she noticed just that whistle, and it was brief. But so working the programs in the group and learning about resiliency and things like that, I recovered, and I say recovered because mental health issues are so similar to a brain inactive addiction.
Yes,
that
that's
it's
so true.
mind-boggling to those who don't know.
So you think that the group therapy was it was group therapy, right? The outpatient?
It was group therapy, yeah. It was an outpatient program. Yeah.
Okay. So do you think
that had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
I think it had a lot to do with it. Go ahead.
Was there anything else that you were doing on your own that was different that you feel contributed to your recovery?
Well, my family my family really did put me on suicide watch. They took my keys to my vehicle. On the days I was in a group, I had to go with my mom if my wife was working. So I did do something else other than practice housing in that group. I contacted a company. I found another psychiatrist. I didn't contact the company. Psychiatrist on day one, and now I had already tried 19 antidepressants. Day one says, you're not a guinea pig. I'm not going to teach you like one. Let me swab your cheeks and send this out. He did that, came back with a list of medication that should work for me and that won't and that might. Started there, and he nailed it. They nailed it. So with that medication that I got from that DNA test and going to group and learning things, I pulled out of it. And towards the end of going to my group meetings, I said, I want to work in this setting. Something similar with doing what you're doing to the therapist.
Wow.
And she said there's actually this position that they do as a certified peer specialist. So for people who have been through these things, who have lived experience, can work trying to help people, that are where they were. I went to this training. I became that certified peer specialist, and then I went to a certified recovery specialist through that training and became certified in recovery for addiction. I then got certified to work older adults. And at first I was just working with like middle-aged people and now older adults. But I was aiming for adolescents. And the company that I was working for didn't have an adolescent program, but they were starting one. So as they did, I was there. I'm in that, in school to receive a degree in therapy so I can work as a mobile therapist for this company, which is the same company where I was going to intensive outpatient.
That's really amazing.
So I was trying to grab the ball and run with it, and as we said a little bit ago, helping other people get through something that you've been through,
yes,
is a wonderful thing,
Absolutely. It's so important. I really feel like it's one of the most important things in any type of recovery, whether it's addiction, abuse, loss, depression.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this. So what types of things did you learn in that therapy that showed you how to use it in your life, in your situation? Were there exercises, like emotional ones, or what was that? And what was it that you liked about it enough to want to do that type of therapy with others?
The thing that I learned the most that stuck with me, and it still does, and I'm still very mindful of it. So shit happens, like, no matter what. We all know that. Like, at any time, any day, like, the shit that's happening now, it happens. So you can't control that. But so you can't control these actions, but what you can control is the way you react to it.
Yes.
So no matter what happens, be it to you, around you, you might not be able to control that, and you probably can't. But what you can always control is what you do in response to what is happening. And I carry that with me. Like, it just stays in front of my mind, in any situation, and no matter what it is. And I think, that would hold true, with any situation. People can panic over what's going on. They can become stressed out. It's their choice. I mean, to panic is natural, but you can sit down and rationally think about, okay, what's my best way to go about?
Of course. I mean, honestly,
what's going on?
Yeah, panic isn't gonna solve it, right? But I like the idea of what you said about the things that we can have control over, because when we start focusing on the things that we do have control over and stop focusing on what we don't have control over, it empowers us. And
That is it.
yeah, so I think that's a great message. I can't even imagine what you've gone through with all of this, and coming out the other side the way that you have, and turning all of that pain into your purpose, and now literally, helping other people, literally, that your life revolves around it. That's what you do for a career, and it's your passion. And I can just imagine how much more compassionate you are because of the things you've gone through and all of the people you're helping with all of that empathy. And I hate to sound cliche, but they do, how they say everything happens for a reason. If there is any type of solace in any of what you've gone through, it did kind of reestablish you as a person and put you on the path that you are today. And I'm sure you're affecting so many numerous lives. I can just imagine how many
You
people
are.
you deal with every day.
You're 100% correct. Because people. I mean, I've heard that, and everything happens for a reason. I'm like, okay, why? What would be the reason? What would be the reason that I would lose my son? What would be the reason that I would go through depression for 2 years, and want to kill myself? What would be the reason that I lost my father to suicide? Try to make it make sense to me, because it's not going to. But now, like you said, it's given me that empathy, and it's changed me. There's no doubt about that. Trauma changes people, and that's one thing that we can't control. So,
No.
I the best of it, and that's not just why I like to make the best of a bad situation. I'm able to help people easily, and not fake. That this is real. I might not know exactly how you're feeling or exactly what you're going through, but the odds are I can get it pretty damn close.
Right.
From going through what I went through. And I'm here to let you know that it's not going to be this way forever. Because I thought it was going to be, and where I am now, I'm thankful that I didn't follow through with what I was thinking. It's amazing. I'm not only back to who I was. I'm more than that. I help people on just a social media thing that I've never met these people, and I may never meet them. But it doesn't matter to me. Is if you stay alive, hey, that's good enough for me.
Definitely.
That's all I need.
Yeah. I love your message of it's not, it won't last forever. You won't stay in that dark place forever. And that's exactly what the last guest I had, I was telling you, we talked about the same topics actually. And he also works with people who are struggling with suicidal thoughts and addiction and abuse. And his message was also this doesn't last forever. So don't do something permanent based on a temporary emotion.
Exactly. And if I can real quick, with the adolescent suicide increase in the number of it's insane. Social media, I don't down anything. It can be great. There's a lot of great things coming out, coming from social media and all this technology, and but these kids, they don't get a break. They don't get a break from being pushed to do sports, to do good in school, to get going to college, to rush through life, and they don't get a break if they're being bullied or picked on for any reason because they have their devices. When we were younger, if you were being bullied or there was a fight at the end of the school day, that was it. It was over at least until the next day or maybe until Monday if it was Friday. But now, no, never, because that social media is always right there on their device, in their face. They can't get a break from it. And I think the pressure of that has a lot to do with the rising number of, adolescent suicides, kids in school.
Great
it's
point.
just, it's crazy. I mean, this year already, well over 231,000 kids have taken their lives.
That is unreal, honestly.
It's almost
just
a quarter of a million. It's unbelievable.
Wow. I agree with you. Yeah, the social media aspect and not getting a break. Like you said, when we grew up, we didn't have any of that. Not even close. Nothing.
Right.
Like you're 40, right?
Yeah, I'm close to 45.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm 38. So, yeah, like I grew up in the 90s,
Yeah.
I graduated
like
in
maybe
1999.
Maybe the first bag cell phone came out, like it was in a big bag you had to carry around.
Yeah, I never even saw one though, Like I wasn't a rich kid, so I didn't see stuff like that.
We didn't even have walkie-talkies, like they just come out later. Like we couldn't afford that shit if it was out.
I had a beeper,
Yeah, your Walkman, you might have got a Discman. If you're rocking and you had a big boombox on your shoulder maybe, but you weren't carrying around your problems in your pocket.
No, and it wasn't there for the world to see over and over and over again. So, like, you do something, like, embarrassing or you get into a fight, it was like, oh, okay, well, everybody's going to forget about it in a couple weeks because somebody else is going to do something stupid, Yeah,
you're right.
But
you're right.
now it's like, no, because guess what? It's all right here, and people can torment you over and over and over again with it. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. My son, who's 11, I have a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old son, and my 11-year-old wanted to open a Facebook. Well, he did open a Facebook. So I said, oh, my God, I didn't say, that you were allowed to open a Facebook. You need to ask me that first. He had, like, the town that he lives in and all that, and then he had all these strangers on there.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, this is not happening.
Not happening.
Like, I said, I've already talked to you about this. And he's like, well, I'm older now. I'm like, that was like a year ago.
Yeah. I'm so
he's
much
like,
more
I'm
mature
older
now.
now.
And responsible.
Yeah. I'm like, you are still 11. And you cannot be friends with strangers. And you can't post where you live. And I'm like, no, you have to delete your Facebook. I'm sorry. It's not happening.
It's too dangerous out there. I have a 10-year-old and his brother. I have a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old, and that's my 10-year-old. Like, Dad, why can't I have Facebook? I'm like, dude, because you don't need Facebook. Dad, why can't I have a cell phone? I'm like, dude, you got friends in school. That's it. Like, what? No.
Yeah.
My brother has it. Like, he's in his teens. He didn't get a phone till he was in his teens, and he didn't get a Facebook till he was in his teens. There's a lot of reasons, little guy. We sit down and talk about it all the time. Don't pretend like you forget,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they'll try. Tomorrow
they'll try.
Be older,
Yeah. I allowed him to have. I did allow him to have an Instagram because there's no personal info, and you know what I mean. It's less personal than Facebook. So I said, okay, you can share photos.
You're right.
Between your friends and yourself, like people's kids he knows. But yeah, it's tricky. It's really scary.
Absolutely.
Because you don't want them to think that their life revolves around that social media. So I live in Serbia, as you know, and we've been here for like 7.5 years, and they are outside all the time. So living in Serbia, in a way, and it's like, because we don't live in the city anymore, we live in like a really small town. It's more like a village.
Nice.
Basically, it's basically like going back into the 80s. So, yeah, they play outside all day. They're outside. Yep, they play outside. They ride their bikes. My other son said to me the one day, he's like, "Mommy, can I go explore abandoned buildings and leave my phone at home so I can pretend like I'm in the 80s?" I was like, I'm like, no, you can't explore abandoned buildings, number one, because you don't know who's in there. And number two, no, you can't go anywhere without your phone. I need to check on you.
Yeah. When we were younger, like, if you didn't have phones, how would you, like, find your friends? I would do, like, I would ride my bike to their house. What if they weren't home? Then I would ride my bike and go look for them, or I would ride to another friend's house. Like,
exactly. You could explore all day and find your friend.
Yeah, it is a different world, different times. I think as parents, we need to adjust a little bit, with this technology, and this is how they're communicating, and but just adjust a little bit. They still need that face-to-face and that human interaction and, the real shit in the world, not just the fake book, and all that.
Yep, of course.
Be real.
Yeah, and, like, I'm also not saying that technology is a bad thing, but when they're young and you know that the damages that they can cause, by excess or using it in the wrong way, we have to be aware. We just have to be aware.
Absolutely. And when I, as I got deeper and deeper involved in adolescent suicide prevention, I went and I researched. I went back, through the timeline of, not to even name, any social media things for any reason, but as they came out and as they became more popular, and as a newer, more popular one came out with more connections and ways, suicide numbers went up and went up.
Wow.
And that's not the single cause, absolutely not. But it plays a very, very big part in it, and that sucks.
Yeah, it does. I love what you're doing, and I'm so happy that you came on today. And I know it was a little bit last minute because I had some changes, and I was so, grateful that you were able to jump on and tell your story. It's a very, very deep story. It's very personal, but I think that by you sharing it and the ways that you got through it, and then obviously helping others and turning your career into that, is a really powerful message. So thank you for being on. And
loving it. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
So I'm honored. I feel honored. I loved it. And I want you to be safe.
Thanks. You too.
As safe as you can be, definitely.
Yeah.
And we will hopefully be in touch.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the panic real quick before you go. So,
all right.
Are they in because we have about 7 minutes still. So is it like are they in full blown panic mode over there?
So they were not as of today. Now, like the streets, like everywhere else that I've seen, at least on the net, the traffic has died down, like, astronomically. But there's been, to the best of my knowledge, no, other than let's buy all the toilet paper for some reason thing. Other than that, there really hasn't been, and I've been sharing my thoughts, and, most people are like, what, yelling at me, whatever. So, now I think though with what happened tonight, I think that tomorrow and tonight, it's panic is definitely gonna multiply. People or I could just see it. I know, I know it's gonna do. Because every reason and like the amount of people that just had to stop working is an astronomical number. Like a lot of families, now neither parent can work. Like I said, I'm extremely thankful that I can continue to work. Even if it's not full force the way it was, but that'll go back, and it's gonna get worse before it gets better. At least I'm aware of that, and it's gonna be some time. It's not gonna be over tomorrow.
No.
So I think as long as I'm calm enough to keep my people around me calm, we can't prevent the panic.
No, that's
true. It's going to get pretty wild. Have you, in your area, have you seen any, very bad panic as of yet?
Sorry. No, I haven't really, to be honest with you. And people here are not.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, the closest thing I've heard to any kind of story is like my kids saying, well, their friend down the street, like he's not allowed to play because his mom's afraid of the coronavirus, so he's not allowed to play outside. And I was like, okay, we're not doing that. But I said, I'm like, don't touch kids, don't touch each other. But you want to go play soccer, you're outside, go play soccer. But don't go to a gaming place or something, you know what I mean? So obviously, right? That's different.
Yeah.
But so I'm just trying to stay calm and pump them full of elderberry syrup and vitamin C and onion and garlic. And stay calm, because my younger son was very concerned. He was like, oh my God, like, are we going to get it and what's going to happen? I'm like, no. I'm like, trust me, you've probably already had worse. And you know what I mean? And I said, and panicking is only going to lower your vibration and get you sick. So stay happy, stay positive, but take precautions. Be smart.
Yeah,
don't touch
but
people.
and I think that's going to be very helpful. Just the way that we are, not panicking in front of our children, and you need to keep that calmness. You need to assure them that everything's going to be all right, because like I said, mine's just turning 10, and he has concerns, like why can't my friends like come over, like what is going on? Is it really that bad? Is it just reassuring him that things are different for now because of what's going on, but it'll be all right. Just do some fun stuff and keep the good vibes up. And
that's
we'll be
right.
Good.
Exactly.
Got it.
Well, thank you so much again for being on the show, and thank you to everybody who tuned in. And I think we'll be having Dennis on another show at some point to check back in, because you have a lot of good stuff to talk about, and this was really great. Thanks for all the positive messages, and stay tuned for next show, guys. Bye, Dennis. Thank you.
Bye. Take care. You're welcome.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on A Billion Realities. Please stay tuned for next Wednesday's show at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time or 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everyone.